Welcome to Ask a Therapist, a show where qualified therapists stop by to answer all your questions. Welcome to episode 6 of Ask a Therapist. This is a brand new show from us here at Legally Clueless Africa, where you get to ask all the questions you've ever wanted to ask a therapist or counselor. And we get some of our favorite qualified therapists, counselors to answer your questions. So how you can get your questions to us is by going to the show notes. There's a question form. Drop your question there. Keep listening because your answer is going to be coming your way. And in this season, we have Daisy, who's the founder and lead counselor at ConvoCare, who's answering all of your questions. And in case you don't know about ConvoCare, we have put a link to their social media pages in the show notes, but it is an organization trying to make therapy more accessible to you. It doesn't matter where you are because Daisy and her team also do virtual therapy sessions. And speaking of the types of therapy, there's virtual, there's group therapy, couple therapy, individual therapy. They can help you deal with rage and so much more. So take this as a sign that you are ready to go for your first therapy session. Why not, right? Give ConvoCare a call or send them an email. Their number and email are in the show notes. And now, let's get right into answering all your questions. Daisy, I hope you are ready for the questions that were sent in. This one, let me tell you, I feel like I needed to have asked it back in 2019 when I was trying to leave my job. Unfortunately, this is an issue people really battle working in toxic workplaces. And then because of capitalism, it's not as easy as I'm just going to quit my job, you know? So the question that we got was, how do you cope with toxic work colleagues who result to bullying and sabotage, making work environments toxic?
Okay. How did you cope? Maybe I could.
Did I cope? You know, the thing is, no one like when you're growing up or when you're having those conversations with like parents or older people when you're in uni about afterwards you'll get a job, no one prepares you. They're always just focused on the professionalism of it, on the money of it. No one tells you about toxic workplaces. And so for me, I think I was in denial for a good 2 years. And now the worst thing about a toxic workplace, it's almost feels like being in an emotionally abusive relationship. You feel as though someone has punched you in your eye, but there's no punch, there's no evidence of it. That's one. So you're confused. Number two, as Africans, we're socialized to be so grateful for a job. So it even takes you a long time to start complaining. Because in your head, you're trying to say, Adele, no many people would want this job. Do you know how, like, you're so blessed? And then my job was unconventional. So as much as it was demanding in hours, it wasn't 9 to 5. So I'd be like, but surely you're only there for a few hours. Just like suck it up. It was breaking me. Any free time I had, I would spend it sleeping. Number two, I would look at other colleagues they look like they're thriving. So I'm just like, am I weak? Or like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And then Sundays from 1 p.m., you'd think someone has died in my family. I would be so sad because I'm like, oh, yo, tomorrow I'm back at that place. So I don't think I coped until I started to name my fears around quitting my job and then making action plans, addressing my fears and realizing like, it's just a job, Adele. It's just a job. Like, please. But it's honestly, it was... And I feel like I'm a pretty strong person, but where? That was something else, Daisy, something else. Yeah. So I don't know how we can advise this, the person who sent in this question.
Yeah. So just like you have said, it could feel like emotional abuse, like you're in an emotionally abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And usually what happens when you're in an environment that is toxic is that you get into survival mode. So in survival mode, sometimes it's even hard for you to place a finger to what it is.
Yeah.
So the fact that I applaud them because they've actually noticed that it is bullying. Sometimes it takes time before you actually do notice that what is happening is bullying.
Yeah.
So the first step is to actually notice that what is happening here is that I'm being bullied. Validate your emotions, know how you feel. When this happens, this is how usually I feel. So learning to validate yourself. Validating yourself could be you journaling every day after work, journaling, so that you can actually get those feelings out of your head and onto something that you can see, so that you can know how to address those feelings. And then now, after you have noticed that this is bullying, this is how it makes me feel, now try to address the issue where you are. So one, seek support for yourself. So have someone who can guide you on how to deal with it. Two, if there are avenues in your workplace where you can actually seek support, for example, seeking out for the HR and letting them know that this is how you feel, and find a way that these issues can be addressed. If the environment is still toxic, then if there is a possibility for you to leave, that should be in part of your plan, where you're looking at your fears, just like you did, addressing why am I still staying here, that in an environment that is toxic, what is my eventual plan? How am I going to navigate leaving this workplace finally? And then also try and speak out to the bully, because most times bullies inside are very afraid.
Yes, they have no confidence.
They have no confidence. So their strength is that you cannot speak out. But actually putting up boundaries with them and letting them know that this is what is happening can go a long way in actually resolving the issue.
That is so true, because like once I handed in my resignation and I was so confident, I took on that main bully. I sent emails, anything small. I sent an email. And I remember there's a day we had a back and forth, and his office was one office away from me. So he was bullying the interns who would work in my department. And I was like, that's not on. These are just young uni students. You'll bully us, mothers, and then also these youngins, surely. And so I sent an email kind of like reporting him now to his superior. When he'd reply, he'd remove everyone and reply me. Me, when I reply him, I bring everyone back. So we did that back and forth with like 4 or 5 emails. Then he stormed into my office and he I don't know what he was like, shouting. And so I also got up and I hit my desk.
Wow.
And I could see now he was backtracking, walking backwards, and he went back to his office. I laughed. After he left my office, I laughed because honestly, I was just doing that because now I was like, I'm on my way out. I just want you to know that you cannot do this to everyone. And since I have nothing to lose right now, anyone you bully, I'm there.
It's important to note that hurt people hurt others.
Yes.
So look at this bully as someone who is hurt, just projecting their fears on you. So get the confidence to speak out for yourself. Maybe it's just a boundary issue. If you actually communicated this boundary, then they would, quit the bullying. Yeah.
And what do you say about, I think one thing I did wrong was because many of us felt the workplace at that time was toxic. We would sit and wallow together a lot. And over time, I realized this wasn't helping me, because then it meant it's the only thing that's in my head, whether I'm doing in the workday or when I'm hanging out with colleagues. So now I started avoiding those conversations just to give me a breather. I don't know if that's also something to think about.
Yes, it is, because we feel differently. What could be affecting this colleague is not the same thing that will be affecting you. So it is important that you validate yourself by, within yourself, notice what it is that it is actually wrong, because the next colleague might not actually be feeling the same way you're feeling, and therefore it is important that you validate yourself on your own and find out an exit plan within yourself.
I hope this episode gave you insights that can help you on your healing journey, specifically for those of you who are trying to navigate a toxic workplace. You need the money to survive, but it's killing your mental. Remember to send in your questions via our question form. There's a link to it in the show notes. And episodes like this go out every single Friday. If you enjoyed the episode, please give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, share it with your friends and even your enemies. That's all for this episode. If you have a question to ask a therapist, please drop it in our question form. A link to it is in the show notes. Catch you next week for the next episode of Ask a Therapist.